Welcome, Ivana Jemelkova, to the podcast, The Hydrogen Leader. I'm very excited to have you with us.
Thank you so much, Bian. It's really a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you for the opportunity.
As you know, with this podcast, we are driven to share insights in markets and also the success of top professionals. I think you are a very important woman in the hydrogen economy, as you are the CEO of the Hydrogen Council, which we will learn a little bit more about. And I want to kick this off also for our audience with a very basic question. Who is Ivana Jemelkova?
Brilliant. Thank you, Ben. Again, a real pleasure to be here with you. And I'm someone who's been in the industry, in policy, communications, and energy for nearly 20 years, which is a very humbling number to think of. But really, they say time flies when you're having fun. And I'm certainly having fun. I'm on a mission that I deeply believe in, and work with great teams and colleagues all around the world. So a very, very privileged place to be.
And the organization that you are leading, the Hydrogen Council, can you explain a little bit? When was it founded? What is the purpose? And what is your vision?
Absolutely. So a couple of questions in one. Let us maybe start with the story, with the founding story of the Hydrogen Council. It happened at the World Economic Forum in Davos back in early 2017. So if you think of it, we will be soon celebrating the 10th birthday, the 10th anniversary of the Hydrogen Council. It started with 13 CEOs who came together to say something that today will sound like a complete no-brainer, but back then it was a pretty big deal. It was a bold thing to say. Hydrogen has a role to play in the energy transition. Fast forward 10 years, and we now have 140 companies across 20 different countries working together, not only to follow through on that vision, but really to build, invest the billions of euros and make that vision become reality. And I will make a little connection to the question you asked before. I've had the incredible opportunity to really spend my life all around the world. My professional life especially started in Belgium and Brussels, then moved to the US. Now I'm back in Germany. But really, mainly I'm on the road because the Hydrogen Council really covers the full spectrum. We have companies in North America. We're recording the podcast actually from Detroit. So I'm looking at the sky, which is a little cloudy today, but excited to be here. We have members in Europe, we have members in the Middle East, in Asia, countries like Japan, Korea, China, India. So it's really grown tremendously, and it's a true global organization. In fact, the world's largest, and perhaps last point, which is very important, the only CEO-led organization. So we really bring together the top leaders from some of the key companies in energy, transport, and industry to work together and deliver on that initial vision, right? Hydrogen has a role to play in the energy transition. What a statement from 10 years ago.
So, Ivana, there is one thing you need to tell me, because I have seen you several times, both in person and also digitally, and you normally used to wear a purple suit. Today you are wearing something different. Is this your signature move? You see the Highfinder blue. This is basically our signature move. Can you tell me, why are you wearing normally a purple suit?
Björn, thank you for asking that question, because I have indeed been asked this a lot. You would not believe how many people have strong views on my color choices. Now, the first thought I always have when I hear something like this is, would male colleagues be ever asked about their outfits? But I know where the question is coming from, so really appreciate you raising it. I know you as someone who cares deeply about the success of the sector and the diversity. So. Yeah. I will say the truth is really practical. Madeleine Albright, who was also born in the Czech Republic or Czechoslovakia just a couple of years earlier, always said that when you're in the room, make it count. And this is the idea, right? So you're in the room, you have to be visible. In my case, that's part of the job. You have to speak up, you have to contribute, and I do not shy away from that responsibility. In fact, I find it quite practical. When I say at a conference, I'm the person in a pink suit or a blue suit, green suit, red suit. I wear the full rainbow of colors. I'm really easy to spot. But perhaps more seriously, I've been very deeply involved in many women in hydrogen and women in energy initiatives over the year. I believe very strongly that hydrogen is a great place for women, full of innovation and opportunity, and we absolutely need all available talent to make it a success. So thank you for asking. Really
let us stay on this topic, because I think what many people don't know, the Hydrogen Council also has specific initiatives for women in hydrogen. Can you share some more details here?
We do not drive these initiatives ourselves, but we have really put support behind those who do. And that's especially Women in Green Hydrogen, a great organization that started a couple of years ago to pull together a binder full of women, if you will. So options for conference organizers to invite female speakers. So we have that wonderful diversity of perspectives in the conversations. And we also support a US-based organization called Women Plus in Hydrogen. And in fact, I very much look forward to joining their upcoming events. Women Plus in Hydrogen will be organizing a virtual International Women's Day celebration in just a few days. So please join in. It's super networking, great conversation. And I'm just so glad that we can support these organizations.
Okay, great. So now more seriously, you are now the CEO of the Hydrogen Council, leading a lot of important people. How would you describe your responsibilities, and what is your leadership style, Ivana?
Lots of big questions. So let's maybe take it one by one, Björn. So what do I do at the Hydrogen Council? My job is to essentially lead the team. We are not a big team, just 14 colleagues working in the secretariat. But we have a fantastic group of members, very committed, skin in the game, hands-on, 15 board companies, and as I mentioned earlier, 140 members from all around the world. So we really come together to provide the fact base on what's happening in hydrogen, to advocate for what needs to happen next, communicate about what the sector is doing, some doom and gloom in the headlines, and our job is to show what the sector is actually achieving. And then we really act as a marketplace. Many of the world's top deals in hydrogen originated because CEOs and execs met during Hydrogen Council meetings. So we're very proud of it, and we'll continue driving that as well. And working with our CEOs is, I think that was your second question, Björn, is an absolute privilege. I mean, we truly are CEO-led, so we have frequent opportunities to directly interact with those incredibly knowledgeable, powerful, capable people who have built amazing things, businesses, right? Very successful businesses. And it's an absolute privilege. I learn every day. I mentioned a couple, Kanehana-san of Kawasaki, who's been just so wonderful and generous with his time. Sanjeev Lamba of Linde, the two past co-chairs who actually brought me back to the council. And then Francois Jacob and Jay Chang of Air Liquide and Hyundai, respectively, our current co-chairs. We were just on a call yesterday, and it's just so fascinating to see how they're thinking about what's happening in the world right now, and absolutely incredible to get that level of leadership.
I don't know if you can share one of the message that you recently have received from these top leaders. Is that possible?
Absolutely. I mean, we had over 200 CEOs at the Hydrogen Council CEO Summit in Korea just a few weeks ago. Their message was absolutely crystal clear. And I was so impressed to see, again, amid the doom and gloom, all of that uncertainty, I thought it was going to be a very subdued meeting, so to say. But not only they showed up, but the meeting had a really clear message, that shift from the planning, the vision setting to actual delivery. So we spend most of the time talking about how we're actually putting steel in the ground and how we're building those projects. And the motto of the event was lead, build, and deliver. And to me, it encapsulates perfectly the focus, right? The commitment and frankly, the hard work that it takes and that these leaders are putting in right now.
And many organizations that are part of your organization are themselves or itself big companies, and they also need to pivot towards a greener future. So how committed are these companies to change, or do they only demand change from others? And is there a minimum net zero commitment you require from anyone who wants to join your organization?
Great question. And look, the very mission of the Hydrogen Council is to build a world that is more sustainable, more secure, and more resilient. So it is at the very core of our mission. And these companies are truly walking the talk. I understand the provocative intention in the question, but these are companies that are pouring in billions of euros, right? That have agreed and that have remained focused despite the many pressures. And the pressures are very real. You talk to your shareholders, and what do they want? They want you to make money. How do you make money? There are plenty of near-term opportunities to make money. Let's take a look at data centers. Let's take a look at the dynamics in energy commodities themselves. So how do you stick with that vision despite that very fragmented, volatile, uncertain world and continue to maintain your long-term vision? Because you want to build a business that's not here just for the next couple of years, but we work with some companies that have been in business for 100 years, and that really requires that long-term focus. Obviously, you leverage the opportunities in the short and near term, but you really do need to build for resilience over many years.
Yeah. So let's go a little bit back in time, because the two of us, we had the chance to meet at the DII Leadership Conference in Dubai. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of stuff is going on in Dubai, in the Middle East. We can talk about that in a little bit later. But what was very impressive, and I think you also gave a presentation in that conference, you shared your insights of the Hydrogen Compass. And this, I think, is a report that you recently put out there. And I found that there were many positive messages that you were sharing in that conference. So please be so kind and also share with this audience the main findings of this Hydrogen Compass report.
Great. I mean, that was a great event. November last year, if I remember correctly, and the II Energy Partnership did a great job putting that up. And if they're listening, really best regards to Cornelius and team, because the situation is what it. Yeah. I hope everybody's safe, and we'll look forward to seeing you all again very, very soon. Now, I remember the conference because I walked up on the stage and I said, it's not an easy time to be in hydrogen. And I think the audience really sort of both laughed and let out a kind of collective sigh of relief, because someone acknowledged that indeed, look at the headlines, projects delayed, project cancelled, hydrogen is dead. Now, what I said on the stage was, I understand where this is coming from. There's been attrition in hydrogen. There's been challenges. Just like any other clean energy technology, hydrogen is going through a scale-up curve. That means not every idea, not every project succeeds. But what I urged the audience to do at the time was to stay focused on the big picture. Yes, approximately 50 or so projects have been publicly announced to be cancelled. At the same time, we have 510 projects around the world that have gone through FID, moved into construction or even operation. That's absolutely formidable. And in just 5 years, the capital commitments in hydrogen have grown 10 times. So we have a 10x scale-up curve. And my message to the audience was, stay focused and be proud. Be proud of what you have accomplished. I mean, we can be looking at things in different ways. Okay, let's talk about 510 projects and where we are with the gigawatts and production and what have you, and we can say, what, not great. We're not really reaching the sky high expectations of the early hype. This industry has failed. I think that's absolute nonsense. I think we really have to stay focused on what has actually been achieved amid an incredibly challenging set of circumstances. This industry has shown that it can deliver. It has shown real energy and real resilience amid, all kinds of issues. If I think about it, many countries, we chatted about COVID and what have you in preparation. Many countries put out their national hydrogen strategies, say 3, 4, 5 years ago, around the 2020 mark. And we're really in the thick of it right now. We're in the thick of that implementation. So we're seeing some ups and some downs, and we have to stay focused and keep working and keep making sure that, we wrap up the first wave of projects, that they're delivered. And that serves as a proof, no longer promise, no longer PowerPoints, but a proof that this industry can build, and hopefully a really appealing message to policymakers that it's an industry that's absolutely, absolutely worth supporting going forward.
So I guess you will also make a great manager of a soccer team to motivate the people to score some goals. It's very motivating. And I have to say, when you talk about the headlines, I often have the feeling that a bad project that goes out of money makes the headline, whereas a project that works, that proceeds as planned, never makes it in the news. So there is always a potential misrepresentation in the news what is really going on, because a smooth project execution does not really make it in the news. Can that also be the reason?
Yeah, look, it's so natural, right? We all want to read about the things where there's drama, where there's perhaps dramatic news, right? I completely understand it, and look, this is not to say I in any way critique the role of the media. Quite the opposite. I think it's been very useful, to have that good reporting on things that are happening. But I just urge everybody to ensure that they understand the context and the full picture. We don't go for clickbait, as in, oh my goodness, something dramatic happened, hydrogen, it must be over. It must be over. We need to pass that point of understanding that individual developments are different than the collective development of the industry, or a project may fail, but the industry is moving forward. Think about, the bankruptcy of Northvolt. You could say a massive, massive investment in electrification and electric vehicles. I don't think that anyone suggested that electric vehicles are dead when Northvolt went down. And say that massive type of investment should give you a pause, right? What's happening here? So obviously, again, it's not apples to apples. Before I get misquoted, before I get all the social media comments on what is Ivana saying, I just want to gently allude to the fact that you really do need to keep an eye on the full picture. And for that, my message to the industry is very clear. Be very proud of what you have accomplished. Please be loud about it. Please share the stories, because you are the best ambassadors. Show the projects that you're building, right? Show the movements forward. It's so important to have the data, but also the direct testimonials from the field. Please speak about it. Do good and speak about it.
Yeah, and I think this is part of why we are doing this podcast, also to give the people the chance to listen to important people like you. But I think let's stay grounded, and because I think in the Compass you have a lot of data, and what I realized from your speech in Dubai is that we have basically 3 continents, Asia, Europe, and Americas, which seem to move also at a different speed. Can you unpack that a little bit? How do you see currently, with all the knowledge that you have, the situation in China? To start
That's
with.
a great question. I think the way you characterize it is absolutely correct. That seems to be a somewhat different direction and somewhat different, or in fact, dramatically different speed. So China comes out of our ranking as the absolute leader out of the 110 billion in committed capital that I mentioned earlier, China accounts for 33. So about a third of the global total. And it absolutely dominates the charts in terms of renewable hydrogen production capacity and a few other factors. But you can really see the speed and the scale of what's happening in China. Now, if I go to North America, that was set up to be the leader in hydrogen made with natural gas, with CCS, right? So low carbon hydrogen. There's obviously been quite a U-turn in the US. We'll chat about it. I have no doubt. But there are projects that are still moving forward. So we're all very curious to see how that pans out. And then Europe. Europe is absolutely in the position to be one of those key leaders when it comes to hydrogen. It has all the right things in place, but somehow I think it got a little bit stuck in that implementation phase that we talked about earlier. You know, things became complicated. I think I think everybody tried to move in good faith, but some things just did not quite click in the process. So on one hand, we have seen tremendous effort from the industry. The industry has absolutely delivered on its promise. I think we're at 3 gigawatts of hydrogen, clean hydrogen production committed here in Europe, but we have very real issues, and we can go a little bit more in depth around the implementation of some of the legislation, some of the missing rules, and frankly, some of the uncertainty about the very basics of the energy and carbon architecture in Europe. I'm obviously alluding to the conversations we're having now around ETS and CBAM. I thought that was done, and we were ready to speed forward, but somehow we continue to move in circles.
You are already in a great flow, so I don't need to ask questions. But more on Europe, because I think it's correct what you're saying is what can we do better? I even realized that recently there was a statement of the president of France saying the hydrogen regulation in Europe is too complicated. We need to go through this. So these are all good statements, but how can we advance the hydrogen economy in Europe practically now in the next 3 years?
Yeah, great question. In summary, the idea and that what Europe should really focus on is not going back, but doubling down on the way forward. Treating hydrogen, and I will use the term here, as a strategic choice. We were just a few days ago at the Hydrogen Forum in Berlin, together with various key players from the industry, Niels from Sunfire, Charlotte from Store Energy, Jorgo from Hydrogen Europe, on a panel. And we really said, look, hydrogen has a really important contribution to make to everything that Europe wants right now. It wants more secure energy. It wants more optionality. It wants to leverage what is available at home. It wants to make the energy system better so that energy can flow more easily, more cheaply around the Union. So it can support the industries that we so very much need to stay in Europe and provide jobs. So hydrogen has never been more relevant, and we should get out of that little hole that we have sort of dug out for ourselves in Europe, that is, go deeper and deeper and deeper into the very specific nuances of the regulation. No, forget it. Hydrogen is a strategic choice, and it should be treated as such. So what are the issues that are blocking us? One, we absolutely have to protect CBAM and ETS. That is the very foundation of the architecture. Then we have to urgently...
Wait a second. For those who don't dream of hydrogen, what is CBAM? Please explain, because not everybody is aware of this topic.
Absolutely. Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, CBAM. And it's effectively a tool that protects, or let me put it this way, levels the playing field for producers in Europe and producers from all around the world. And I completely appreciate that many people do not dream about the European Union. So happy to go further in depth. But let's say there are tools in place, policy, regulatory tools in place that the European Union needs to protect, because they create the framework for what we're trying to do with all clean energy, not just hydrogen. There are tools that need to be clarified, simplified, or even just put in place. I'll use the example of trade rules for hydrogen. What qualifies or does not qualify as the right kind of hydrogen per European Union definitions? That's still not completely known, completely clear. The Commission has been working on it for some time, and we're trying to help, because we really want to bring this to the finish line and allow our investors and businesses to take decisions. So the to-do list is pretty clear. Lead markets, the Industry Accelerator Act, some of you may be following, came out just yesterday, and I think really the bottom line is we need to see that mindset switch. All right, we put out a vision a few years ago, a strategy. We have made significant progress. That is the foundation for, that continued effort, but it should not be into the weeds. We should not get lost in the detail. We really need to keep remembering why we're doing this in the first place, and really double down on hydrogen as a not as the solution, let me be really clear, but as an important contributor to the solution that we're seeking, and that is a more secure, sustainable and resilient Europe.
And I think what in the preparation, what I found out, this is also something important. You believe in the Hydrogen Council, it's not only about green hydrogen, but many colors of hydrogen to continue the decarbonization effort, right? To not jump from zero to green, but to find a good way to transition.
Thank you for asking that. It's also a really important question to clarify. So at the Hydrogen Council, from the get-go, we have been supporting all hydrogen that decarbonizes, because our lens is decarbonization. And we've been actually advocating for calculators over colors, because, I know why the colors have been introduced. It's easy. It's a useful shorthand. I say green and your head goes to electrolyzers. I say blue. Your head goes to natural gas and CCS. But actually, what is absolutely clear is that you may label different projects with the same color, but the carbon outcome of those projects is very different. So we've been extremely clear to advocate for clear international standards, global standards that allow us to measure, verify, certify, and value the carbon properties of our molecules on a life cycle basis. So that we all use the same terminology, we all use the same methodology, we all can then compare. So I would love to have a conversation about hydrogen carbon intensity X rather than pink, blue, orange, what have you. To me, the carbon accounting side of things is very, very important.
So given the current situation in the Middle East and the timing of our podcast, I think it would not be very authentic if we leave this topic out. So I sense that there is a big disruption going on in the energy sector through the war that is now taking place in the Middle East. And I wonder whether this is now changing also the playing field for hydrogen, and what your organization or your view is on that. How will this potentially affect the hydrogen economy in the future?
Absolutely. It's a wake-up call. It's a wake-up call, and we've had quite a few in the recent past. I mean, we talked about COVID already. Ukraine, that was the first moment where Europeans really had to look in the mirror and say, what are we doing here? And I think the Middle East situation is another is another wake-up call in the same vein, but perhaps with even larger repercussions. Now, what it shows to me, and I do not dare to speculate about where we go from here, but what it shows to me is this importance of resilience. And what I mean by resilience is not really let's all go back to our parts of the world, big fortresses around us, and stop talking to each other. Not at all. To me, it's really about two things. One is, are we already doing enough? What we have available to us in our own geography, let's say in Europe, are we doing enough to tap into the potential for energy, clean energy that we have at home, whether it's renewables or nuclear or whatever it is that we can find? Are we already doing enough? I think the clear answer is no, and hydrogen can absolutely help. Hydrogen accelerates and really grows the deployment of renewables, or can do that if it's used strategically. We can bypass the very congested grid that is waiting for very expensive upgrades. We can prove that two infrastructures can be actually really more useful than one. Not only for efficiency, but also for security and cost reasons. We can really help accelerate the flows of renewables between the different parts of the European Union. So that's very clear. And the second pillar of resilience for me is all about international trusted partnerships. So who are the countries that we can really work together, that we can really build trust with for the long term? And what kind of energy products can we trade? And I think the opportunity is enormous. If Europe follows through on the legislation that is already in place, whether that's, we talked about ETS CBAM, but also importantly RED III and other pieces of the architecture, it has the potential to become the world's #1 demand center for hydrogen and derivatives, so molecules, ammonia, and others. So I think this is a huge opportunity that Europe could use to create that pull and collaborations with countries all around the world that perhaps have not historically been our closest energy allies, but which have the amazing opportunity now to put themselves on the map, or put themselves on the map in a different way. Optionality, trusted partnerships. I think this is what is really highlighted by that situation. I always regret that it takes pain and suffering for us to wake up. But frankly, if we already have it, then let's please wake up, because now is the time to build for a future that will not involve these types of conflicts over energy.
Yeah, thank you. What is quite astonishing for me is hydrogen becomes very political. And I just learned at a conference in Regensburg here last week that even the German government has an initiative, H2 Diplo. So we try to somehow make policy and politics with hydrogen. When I hear you speaking, this is probably what we need to do to get the strategic decision-making going, to form the base for individual decision-making of the market participants, if I read you correct, right?
Look, we go back to this notion of treating hydrogen as a strategic tool, as part of the strategy for a cleaner, more secure and resilient future. I mean, it's absolutely a part of it. And it's been really great to see Katharina Reiche go all around the world and conclude these types of partnerships. Innovative technologies, hydrogen, always a part of it. Wherever she goes, whether it's the deal with the Saudi Arabian government, whether it's some of the deals within the European Union. I'm actually going to cross the border into Canada in just a few hours, and that lends itself, right? I mean, Canada could be player here. If we go back to Asia, I mean, we can be looking at places like India. India is a massively important strategic partner for Europe, and hydrogen is absolutely a part of that. So I really see huge opportunities here for us to think a little bit differently, creatively, and really use what we have at our disposal. We have not quite tapped into the full potential yet. So I'm actually quite excited about it. And I hope we will not waste the crisis.
And so this is advocating for change, but I would like to have your expectation for the next 10 years. What do you really expect to happen? And how can we write the next chapter for hydrogen?
Great question, and perhaps a bit more conceptually first. I think in the next years and even 26, 27, we'll continue to see that building up, that building out of the hydrogen sector. Our numbers, and we at the council have been tracking every single publicly announced project out there for the last 5 years, so have a pretty good sense of what's going on. We're seeing every sign that the operational capacity for clean hydrogen should double this year. We're tracking a number of really large projects that are moving into construction or even finishing up construction, so they will become operational. And this will really, I think, mentally change the picture for many people. I always joke we used to make PowerPoints with all these molecules, the bubbles of water and what have you. No. That's not the picture of hydrogen anymore. I mean, we can show real images of steel in the ground, people in hard hats, operational capacities that are available today. So I think that will allow people to really reimagine what hydrogen, or understand in a new way what hydrogen is and where we are in the rollout. But from there, and again, I want to go back to the opportunities and challenges. On the other hand, the challenges are very real. And frankly, the choice is ours. The choice is ours to make. What kind of energy future we want to have, whether it's us as Europeans, a European working for a very global international group, or whether it's us as a global community. So the to-do list is long, and not everything is easy to accomplish. But I think we need to keep on moving. We need to keep on building, and really the emphasis being on that continued flow of investment, that really firming up of the demand side, because we have again teed it up but not quite followed through on it. So that needs to be brought to a successful conclusion then. And I would say close the first wave. The first wave has yielded 510 projects pass FID, $110 billion committed until 2030. And then open the next wave, really bring in those large industrial projects, which now really are in the 100, 200, 300 megawatt range and above, bring them into ecosystems. So we start connecting the supply and demand in a very productive way. And yet again, change the mental image of what hydrogen is and what it does. I'll maybe conclude with a little anecdote.
Yes, please.
It's just so fascinating always to think about how far we have come and where we are coming from. But we did a check with my team back in, I think we were still looking at this in the 2010. I think we found some articles even 13, 15 and so on. So let's say 10 years ago, there were still articles in places like the New York Times or MIT Review and what have you, about how renewables are way too expensive, are never going to happen. How projects around the world are not moving forward. How this is just never going to change. Renewables should just stop. We should just, put our money into established clean energy technologies. I mean, have we not learned anything? Have we not taken any lessons from that experience? That was just 10 years ago. And you have the exact same discussion about hydrogen. Too expensive, moving only very slowly, never going to happen.
So this was great, dear Ivana. I think that you should lead the hydrogen team for many, many years. And I would like to offer a second chapter of this hydrogen podcast in the year 2030, because then we can reflect on the things that need to be done where we are. As you know, I'm a big believer, so you don't have to convince me, right? I engage in a similar way because I believe in this industry, and I also see the change and what we have achieved in the first 10 years. And I found a statement of Bill Gates very interesting, and he said that people overestimate normally what they can do in 1 year, but they underestimate what you can do in 10 years. And I think this is exactly what is going on. We all want to see progress in the next year, and then are somehow frustrated or so, but we do not see the progress that we have achieved in the last 10 years. And I think this is also giving comfort. I think this interview with you gave me a lot of motivation and comfort to continue to do my work. So thank you for taking the time, dear Ivana. It was a very inspirational also for me. And I wish you also good talks in Canada, and hope that you can get your travel. So thank you for doing this.
Thank you so much, Ben. I so appreciate the opportunity. And look, 2 quick parting reflections. Number 1, let's pour all of that good faith, that belief, that hope into actual work. I think it's important that hydrogen does not stay at the, we hope and we believe and we have a vision. Really, that's done. It's all about the execution. And the big theme for us at the Hydrogen Council this year, and I think it's a theme for the whole industry, is building hydrogen. Let's show how hydrogen is actually doing its part. Let's show how our businesses and our investors are delivering on that initial idea, on that strategy. And let's really help not just the hydrogen bubble, if you will, not just you and I, but really the broader energy spectrum appreciate what hydrogen has to bring, because hydrogen is a very good friend to have. Hydrogen allows you to go faster, allows you to go cheaper, and allows you to really build an energy future that's really integrated, that's systemic. And I think that's a really amazing value proposition and really should be embedded in the strategy of our policymakers right now. So let's keep building. That is my wish and my theme, our theme for the year.
We will do, and we also want to build this channel. So a small procedural message from my side, so to our audience. So those of you who have enjoyed the conversation with Ivana, I kindly ask you to subscribe. We want to further build this channel, and I think with Ivana's presence, you see that we are able to bring really the top professionals of the industry. So please help us grow the channel. Thank you for your patience. So a warm bye-bye and good travel to you, dear Ivana.
Super. Thank you, Bien. Let's keep building.